She told the Boston Mafia boss no, and Dominic Vale did something no one in the city expected. He stepped back. But before that word could save Claire Bennett, a gunshot tore through the walls of his coastal estate, and her daughter's pink shoe appeared in the smoke outside a locked gallery. 3 days earlier, Claire had been painting at a folding table in a leaking South Boston apartment, counting rent money while her little girl slept behind a curtain. She thought poverty was the worst kind of prison. She was wrong. This is not only a story about forbidden desire, buried masterpieces, and a dangerous man with too much power. It is about the difference between being protected and being controlled, and what it costs a woman to reclaim her own name. Stay until the end. Every door in this story hides a secret. Like the video and comment where you're watching from. 3 days earlier, Lily's pink shoes were lined neatly beside a radiator that had not worked since November. One leaned against the wall. The other lay on its side beneath a folding chair, its rubber toe stained with sidewalk salt and blue paint. Claire Bennett noticed the stain while standing over the kitchen table at 2:17 in the morning. She should have been sleeping. Instead, she held a thin brush between aching fingers and painted moonlight across a harbor that had never existed. Rain pressed against the windows of the South Boston apartment. Water slipped through a crack in the ceiling and struck the saucepan on the floor with a patient metallic tap. The sound had been going on for 3 hours. Claire had stopped hearing it after the first 40 minutes. The painting demanded more attention than the leak. A dark shoreline stretched across the canvas. A lighthouse stood in the distance, barely visible through blue-gray fog. No people appeared in the scene, yet the empty beach felt watched. Claire had built that feeling carefully, one transparent layer at a time. The famous artist Mara Voss had painted silence better than anyone Claire had ever studied. Her work did not ask to be admired. It waited until the viewer became uncomfortable enough to look away. Claire understood that kind of silence. She dipped the brush into a mixture of ultramarine raw umber and a small amount of ivory black. The color looked bruised under the yellow kitchen lamp. She touched it to the water. Too warm. She wiped the line away before it dried. Behind the floral curtain that separated the sleeping area from the rest of the apartment, Lily coughed. Claire froze. The brush remained suspended above the canvas. She waited. A second cough followed, soft and dry. Claire set the brush down, crossed the room, and pulled the curtain aside. Lily slept beneath 2 mismatched blankets with a stuffed rabbit tucked beneath her chin. Her curls covered half her face. One small hand rested near the inhaler on the bedside crate. Claire placed her palm against Lily's forehead. No fever? She listened to her breathing until it settled. The apartment smelled of turpentine, damp plaster, and the lavender shampoo Lily loved because the bottle had a princess on it. Claire tucked the blanket around her daughter's shoulders. "You are okay," she whispered. She was not sure whether she was speaking to Lily or herself. A truck rolled past outside. The building trembled. Somewhere below them, pipes knocked inside the walls. Claire returned to the table. Beside the canvas sat 3 envelopes. The first contained a final notice from the electric company. The second came from Lily's preschool and requested payment by Friday. The third had been pushed beneath their door by the landlord. Claire had not opened it. She did not need to. There were only so many ways to say rent was late. She picked up the brush again. The painting belonged to Malcolm Pierce. At least that was how he described it. He called the work a private technical study, commissioned by a collector who wanted to understand Mara Voss's methods. He had assured Claire that no signature would be added, no false history would be created, and no auction house would ever see it. Malcolm used elegant words when he wanted something ugly to sound harmless. Study, interpretation, historical exercise, private commission. Never forgery. Claire had stopped believing him 2 years ago. She had not stopped accepting the money. Belief did not keep the lights on. At 3 in the morning, Lily's sleepy voice came from behind the curtain. Mom. Claire turned. Lily stood in the opening, hugging her rabbit by one ear. Her curls were flattened on one side and her pajamas were covered in tiny yellow stars. "What are you doing awake?" "The ceiling is making soup again." Claire glanced toward the saucepan. A drop struck the metal. Then another. "It is practicing percussion." Lily frowned. "It is not very good." "No. Maybe it needs lessons." Claire smiled despite the ache behind her ribs. "That is probably the problem." Lily shuffled across the cold floor and stopped beside the table. Her eyes moved over the painting. "Is that for the man with the shiny shoes, Mr. Pierce? He smiles like he knows a secret." Claire looked at her daughter. Children noticed danger before adults gave it a polite name. "So do a lot of dangerous people," Claire said. Lily considered that, then pointed to the painting. "Where is everybody?" "There is nobody in this one." "Why?" Claire studied the empty shore. "Maybe they left." "Because of the storm." "Maybe." Lily looked at the lighthouse. "Or maybe they went somewhere warm." Claire swallowed. "That sounds better." She lifted Lily into her arms and carried her back to bed. Lily rested her head against Claire's shoulder. "Are we moving?" The question came so quietly Claire almost pretended not to hear it. "Why would you ask that? Mr. Harlan said we make too much noise. Their landlord had said several things outside the apartment that afternoon." Claire had believed Lily was coloring in the bedroom. "We are not moving tonight. That is not what I asked." Claire closed her eyes for a moment. 5 years old and already too good at hearing what people avoided. "I know." Lily's fingers tightened around the rabbit. "Can my bed come with us?" "Everything important comes with us." "The saucepan." Claire smiled against her hair. "Especially the saucepan." Lily accepted the answer and allowed Claire to tuck her beneath the blankets. Before closing her eyes, she whispered, "You should sleep too." "I will. You always say that." "This time, I mean it." Lily gave her a doubtful look, then rolled toward the wall. Claire waited until her breathing deepened. She returned to the kitchen table. At 4:12, she completed the final layer. At 4:30, she signed nothing. By sunrise, the painting was dry enough to transport. Claire wrapped it in brown paper and tied it with kitchen string. She washed the brushes in cold water because the building charged separately for heat. Blue pigment clung to the lines of her palms and remained beneath her fingernails no matter how hard she scrubbed. At 7, she made scrambled eggs using the last 2 in the carton. Lily ate 1 portion. Claire told her she had already eaten. The lie came easily. That frightened her more than hunger did. They left the apartment shortly before 8. Boston wore the tired color of late winter. Dirty snow gathered along curbs. The wind off the harbor pushed between buildings and found every gap in Claire's coat. She carried the wrapped painting beneath one arm and held Lily's hand with the other. Lily wore the pink shoes. They took the bus toward Back Bay. Lily pressed her forehead to the window and counted red cars. Claire watched the city change. Brick warehouses gave way to restored brownstones. Laundromats became boutiques. Corner stores became cafes where a cup of coffee cost almost as much as Claire had spent on dinner the night before. Malcolm's office occupied the 3rd floor of a narrow building on Newberry Street. A brass plate beside the entrance read, "Pierce Fine Art Advisory." There was no gallery window and no public exhibition space. Malcolm preferred wealth that did not advertise itself. Claire climbed the stairs with Lily beside her. At the top, she paused. The office door stood open. Malcolm's assistant was not at her desk. No voices came from the private rooms. Lily whispered, "Maybe the shiny man is hiding." Claire looked down at her. Why would he hide? People hide when they did something. A cold feeling moved through Claire's stomach. She stepped inside. The office smelled of leather coffee and expensive cologne. Sunlight crossed polished floors and stopped at the edge of Malcolm's antique desk. An envelope lay in the center. Claire's name was written across it. She placed the wrapped painting against the wall and opened the envelope. $900. She counted it twice. 3 weeks of work, nearly every night after Lily went to sleep. $900. Claire's jaw tightened. She told herself to take the money and leave. She had not come to negotiate. Malcolm always found a reason to pay less than promised. The collector had changed his mind. The market had softened. The materials were not historically precise enough. The emotional quality lacked restraint. There was always a sentence designed to make Claire doubt the value of her own hands. Lily wandered toward a shelf filled with auction catalogs. "Do not touch anything," Claire said. "I am looking. Look with your eyes." That is how looking works. Claire almost smiled. Then she saw the catalog on Malcolm's desk. A strip of red paper marked one page. The cover carried the seal of Wexler and Crane Private Sales. Claire had heard of the company. Everyone in conservation had. Wexler and Crane handled estates, private collections, and sales for people who disliked public attention. Claire should have left the catalog closed. She reached for it. The marked page opened beneath her fingers. For several seconds, her mind refused to understand what her eyes were seeing. The image on the page showed a harbor beneath a pale winter sky. 2 black boats drifted near a broken pier. The perspective tilted slightly toward the left, creating the sensation that the water might spill from the frame. Claire remembered painting the boats. Lily had been sick that week. The heating had failed. Claire had held a warm cloth against her daughter's forehead with one hand while applying glaze with the other. The catalog listed the work as a recently recovered painting by Mara Voss. The title was Harbor Without Stars. The estimated value was between $550,000 and $700,000. Claire read the description once, then again. Provenance from a private European family collection. Authenticated by independent specialists. Previously unknown work from the artist's mature coastal period. Every line was a lie. Her lie. Malcolm's lie. A lie built from nights she had spent choosing between medicine and groceries. Lily tugged at her sleeve. Mom Claire looked at the wrapped painting leaning against the wall. Then at the catalog. The room seemed to move slightly beneath her feet. She reached for her phone and photographed the page. The office door closed behind her. The sound was soft. Malcolm Pierce stood near the entrance, removing black gloves one finger at a time. His silver hair was perfectly combed. His charcoal overcoat fit too well to have come from a store that displayed prices. His gaze moved from Claire to the open catalog. The warmth left his face. Claire. She kept one hand on the page. How many Malcolm set the gloves on a chair? You should not be going through my desk. How many of my paintings have you sold? His expression changed again. Not guilt. Calculation. Lily, there is a jar of chocolate almonds in the reception area. Claire stepped between him and her daughter. Do not speak to her. Malcolm's eyes narrowed. This is not an appropriate conversation for a child. You put her food money in an auction catalog. She is already part of the conversation. Lily moved closer to Claire's coat. Malcolm lowered his voice. You were compensated for the work. Claire lifted the catalog. You sold this as Mara Voss. It was attributed to Mara Voss. I painted it. No one disputes that you performed certain technical services. Claire stared at him. Technical services. You were hired to create a study. You hired me to paint an entire canvas. You accepted the terms. The terms did not include fraud. Malcolm walked slowly toward the desk. His movements remained controlled, but the skin near his mouth had tightened. The art market is not a courtroom, Claire. Value is created through belief history, access, and scarcity. Value was created when I painted it. Talent without a name has no market. The sentence landed with the ease of something he had told himself many times. Claire felt anger rise through her exhaustion. You paid me $800. And how many buyers were offering you more? Lily flinched at the sharpness in his voice. Malcolm saw it and softened immediately. That was his gift. He could make cruelty disappear beneath manners before anyone else had time to name it. He looked at Claire as if he were disappointed in her. "I found you when you had nothing." Claire remembered that day. She had been 23, sleeping on a classmate's couch using a borrowed name and trying to finish a conservation degree she could no longer afford. Malcolm had stood in front of one of her restoration exercises for nearly 20 minutes. He told her she possessed an extraordinary eye. He told her private collectors rewarded discretion. He told her the world was full of people who wanted beauty without publicity. Claire had mistaken recognition for kindness. "You found a frightened woman," she said. "Then you taught rich people how to eat her alive." Malcolm's eyes went cold. "You should be careful." "Is that a threat?" "It is advice." "No. Advice is free. Everything from you comes with a price." Malcolm glanced toward Lily. Claire noticed the movement. She closed the catalog and placed it under her arm. Malcolm stepped forward. "That does not belong to you. Neither does my painting. Leave the catalog." Claire took the envelope of cash and pushed it into her bag. "I am taking proof. You are taking property from my office. You want to call the police." The question stopped him. Claire saw the answer in his face. Calling the police would expose the sale. It would invite questions about provenance authentication and the other paintings Malcolm had handled. For 1 second, power shifted across the room. Claire took Lily's hand. Malcolm spoke before she reached the door. "You have no idea who is involved." Claire stopped. The old instinct told her not to turn around. She did anyway. Malcolm stood behind the desk, one hand resting on the polished wood. "What does that mean?" "It means you have survived this long because no one important knew your name." Claire's pulse slowed. Not from calm, from fear. He knew something. Perhaps not everything, but enough. Claire held his gaze. "My name is Bennett." Malcolm smiled without warmth. "Of course it is." Claire left before he could say another word. Outside, the wind had sharpened. Lily did not speak until they reached the corner. "Was he mad?" "Yes." "Are you mad?" "Yes." "Are we in trouble?" Claire looked down at her daughter's pink shoes. One lace had come loose. She crouched on the sidewalk and tied it with fingers that would not stop trembling. "No," she said. Lily watched her face. "You are doing the lying voice." Claire pulled the knot tight. "I know." They returned home before noon. Claire left Lily with Mrs. Ruiz downstairs and climbed back to the apartment alone. She locked the door, closed the curtains, and spread the catalog across the kitchen table. The auction was scheduled for that evening. Invitation only. Private security. Formal dress. The listing named a shell company as the consignor. Claire searched the address and found only a mailbox in Delaware. She called 2 attorneys. The first required a consultation fee she did not have. The second listened until Claire mentioned creating the paintings, then warned her not to speak further without criminal counsel. Claire ended the call. She stood at the window and looked toward the police station 4 blocks away. For a moment, she imagined walking inside with the catalog. She imagined fluorescent lights, a metal chair, and an officer asking whether she knew the paintings would be sold. She imagined Malcolm producing contracts. She imagined her old name appearing in a database. She imagined Conrad Whitmore receiving a phone call before she made it home. Then she imagined a social worker asking who would care for Lily if Claire were charged. The police station remained 4 blocks away. Claire did not move. At 4 in the afternoon, she knocked on Mrs. Ruiz's door. The older woman opened it with a dish towel over one shoulder. Lily sat on the rug watching cartoons. Claire held up a black catering uniform. Mrs. Ruiz looked from the uniform to Claire's face. "No, I did not ask yet. You have the face you make before asking something unreasonable. I need Lily to stay here tonight. For work. For something close enough to work." Mrs. Ruiz folded her arms. "Claire, I need one photograph, maybe two. Of what proof?" Mrs. Ruiz studied her for a long moment. "You are going somewhere dangerous. I am going somewhere expensive. People confuse the two." Mrs. Ruiz did not smile. Claire lowered her voice. "If I do nothing, Malcolm owns the story. If I get proof, I might have a choice." Mrs. Ruiz looked toward Lily. "Be home before she wakes." "I will. Do not promise things you cannot control." Claire nodded. That was fair. She changed in the apartment bathroom. The black pants were too long, the white shirt pulled slightly across her shoulders. She pinned her hair at the base of her neck and covered the blue beneath her fingernails with clear polish. It did not hide much. Before leaving, she stood over Lily, who was now coloring at Mrs. Ruiz's table. Lily drew a house with purple windows and a red door. "Where are you going?" Lily asked. "To work." With shiny shoes, Claire looked down at the borrowed black flats. Not very shiny. Lily reached into her pocket and handed Claire a small plastic star. "For luck." Claire closed her fingers around it. "I will bring it back. You can keep it. Then what will you use?" Lily looked at her seriously. "I have more stars." Claire kissed her forehead. Wexler and Crane held the sale inside a restored mansion near the public garden. Black cars lined the curb. Men in dark coats opened doors for women wearing silk and diamonds. Warm light spilled across the stone steps. Claire entered through the service entrance carrying an empty tray. No one stopped her. That was the quiet miracle of uniforms. Wear the correct clothes, carry something people expected, lower your eyes at the proper moment. The wealthy would make you invisible for free. Inside the mansion glowed beneath crystal chandeliers. Paintings hung against cream-colored walls. Waiters moved through the rooms with champagne. Guests spoke in low voices and laughed as if loud joy belonged to someone with less money. Claire kept walking. She found Malcolm near the far gallery. He stood beside a thin man wearing the silver pin of the Whitmore Foundation. Claire's heartbeat changed. She reached for her phone. A guest stepped backward into her path. The tray tilted. A champagne glass slipped from its surface. A man's hand caught it before it struck the floor. Not quickly. Effortlessly. Claire looked up. He was tall, dressed in a black suit without a tie. His hair was dark, his face calm, and his eyes held the cold attention of a man who noticed everything people tried to hide. He returned the glass to her tray. Then his gaze dropped to her hands, to the blue paint beneath her nails. When he looked at her again, the room seemed to narrow around them. "You are not a server," he said. Claire tightened her fingers around the tray. "You are not thirsty." Something moved at the corner of his mouth. Before either of them could say another word, a bell sounded from the auction room. The man stepped aside. Every conversation near him lowered at once. Claire watched him move toward the gallery, where her stolen painting waited beneath a white cloth. Claire watched the stranger disappear into the auction room. The people around him made space without being asked. A woman in silver lowered her voice. A security guard near the archway straightened. Two men who had been laughing stopped the moment he passed. Claire leaned toward another server. "Who is he?" The young woman followed her gaze and went pale. Dominic Vale. The name moved through Claire like cold water. Everyone in Boston knew the Vale family. Their public companies owned shipping terminals, warehouses, private security firms, and enough waterfront property to reshape entire neighborhoods. Their foundation funded hospitals and schools. Their lawyers appeared beside mayors, judges, and senators at charity dinners. People in South Boston used simpler words. They called Dominic Vale the man who decided which doors opened and which men disappeared behind them. Claire looked back toward Malcolm. He was no longer speaking with the Whitmore representative. He was watching Dominic. Fear had replaced the confidence in his face. A bell rang again. Guests began moving into the main gallery. Claire followed at a careful distance, keeping the empty tray against her hip. Her pulse beat hard beneath the collar of the borrowed shirt. The room had been arranged like a private chapel. Rows of pale chairs faced a low stage. Spotlights illuminated paintings hidden beneath white cloths. Staff members stood near the doors with tablets and discreet earpieces. Claire remained near the rear wall. She saw Malcolm take a seat close to the aisle. The Whitmore Foundation representative sat 2 rows behind him. Dominic chose a chair near the front. He sat alone. No one attempted to join him. The auctioneer stepped onto the stage and welcomed the guests to an evening of private acquisitions. His smile was polished and empty. He spoke about legacy stewardship and the privilege of preserving cultural history. Claire nearly laughed. She wondered how many people in the room had ever painted with numb fingers because the heat had been shut off. The first lot appeared. A landscape sold for $80,000. The second went for $120,000. Claire watched people raise numbered paddles without looking up from their phones. Money moved through the room with less emotion than groceries moved through hers. She searched for an angle that would allow her to photograph Malcolm and the Whitmore man together. Every position left her exposed. A member of staff approached. Refreshments should remain outside the bidding area. Claire lowered her eyes. Of course. She stepped backward into the corridor, then moved toward a side entrance where the stage remained visible. The auctioneer turned a page. Lot 27. Claire stopped. An assistant pulled the white cloth from the painting. Harbor without stars stood beneath the lights. Her harbor, her water, her darkness. The frame was new. Gold leaf had been rubbed into the corners to make it appear old. A small museum label beneath the canvas described the work as an important rediscovery from Mara Voss's mature period. Claire stared at the left side of the sky. A faint crescent-shaped mark appeared beneath the gray paint. She had placed it there by accident when the handle of her brush touched the wet surface. Malcolm had not even removed it. The auctioneer began his description. Scholars have long believed that Voss continued painting after her documented final exhibition. This extraordinary work may prove that her coastal period extended several years beyond accepted records. Claire's mouth went dry. Scholars. Accepted records. Extraordinary work. She remembered Lily coughing behind the curtain while she painted the boats. The auctioneer continued. Notice the controlled loneliness of the composition. The absence of human figures becomes a statement about isolation memory and the spiritual violence of distance. Claire looked down at her hands. She had left the shore empty because Malcolm had demanded the canvas by morning. There had not been time to paint people. Opening at $100,000. A paddle rose. 100,000. Another followed. 150. The numbers climbed. 200, 250, 300. Claire felt each amount like a hand closing around her throat. Malcolm did not turn around. At 400,000, only 2 bidders remained. A woman near the center raised her paddle. 450. The auctioneer looked toward Dominic. Dominic had not moved since the painting appeared. He sat with one ankle resting over his knee, his attention fixed on the canvas. Do I have 500? Dominic lifted one finger. The auctioneer smiled. $500,000. The woman hesitated. She lowered her paddle. The room waited. Sold to Mr. Vale for $500,000. The hammer struck. Claire flinched. Applause moved politely through the room. Dominic stood. The applause faded. The auctioneer leaned toward the microphone. Mr. Vale, our staff can assist with any private examination after the sale. Dominic walked toward the stage. A security guard stepped into his path. Dominic looked at him. The guard moved aside. No threat was spoken. None was needed. Dominic climbed the steps and stopped before the painting. The auctioneer held his smile in place. Is there a concern with the condition report? Dominic reached toward the lower corner of the frame. He did not touch the surface. He studied the pigment, then glanced toward the rear of the room. Claire moved deeper into the shadow beside the doorway. Dominic spoke without using the microphone. "This painting is not by Mara Voss." The silence that followed felt physical. The auctioneer stared at him. "I assure you, Mr. Vale, the work has been reviewed by qualified experts. Then your experts were paid to be blind." Whispers spread through the room. Malcolm's face lost all color. The auctioneer stepped closer. "Perhaps we should discuss your concerns privately." Dominic turned toward the guests. "No." His voice carried easily. "Someone created a false history, purchased an opinion, and expected a room full of wealthy people to confuse price with truth. Several guests looked offended. Dominic did not care. He faced the painting again. The aging is wrong. The ground layer is modern. The blue was mixed by someone who studied Voss carefully but never saw the inside of her studio. Claire's heartbeat stumbled. He could see all of that from the stage. Dominic looked toward the side entrance, toward Claire. But whoever painted it has talent. His eyes moved over the room. And that person is here. Claire felt Malcolm's gaze strike her from across the gallery. He reached into his jacket. His thumb moved across his phone. Claire understood at once. He was warning someone. Dominic spoke again. "Step forward." No one moved. A slight curve touched his mouth. It was not a smile. "Or I find you myself." Claire turned. She walked quickly through the corridor, forced herself not to run, then pushed through the kitchen doors. Cooks and servers moved around stainless steel counters. A woman carrying a tray shouted when Claire passed too close. Claire reached the service hall. Someone behind her called Miss. She did not look back. She entered the staff room, grabbed her bag, and searched for her coat. It was gone. A man's voice sounded in the corridor. "Check every exit." Claire abandoned the coat. She pushed through the rear door and stepped into the cold. Rain had started again. It struck her face in fine needles. She crossed the alley, turned toward Arlington Street, and began walking fast. Her phone showed 6% battery. The bus pass was in her missing coat. The last of her money sat in the envelope inside her bag, but no car service would accept the prepaid card she had already exceeded. She called Mrs. Ruiz. No answer. Claire tried again. The call went straight to voicemail. She left no message. A black sedan pulled away from the curb behind her. Claire turned onto a crowded street. The car followed. Her breath shortened. She entered a hotel lobby through one door and left through another. She crossed against the light, ignored the horn of a taxi, and continued toward the common. The black sedan did not appear again. That did not calm her. It meant the driver no longer needed to be seen. She called Mrs. Ruiz a third time. The phone died before the call connected. Claire walked faster. By the time she reached South Boston, rain had soaked through the thin white shirt. Her borrowed shoes had rubbed the skin from both heels. The plastic star Lily had given her remained clenched inside her fist. The streets around her apartment were nearly empty. The bakery below the building had been closed for years, but the faded sign still hung above the windows. Wind moved loose paper along the sidewalk. Claire looked up. The light in Mrs. Ruiz's apartment was off. So was the light in her own. She climbed the stairs without making a sound. The hallway smelled of old cooking oil and wet wool. Mrs. Ruiz's door stood closed. Claire knocked once. No answer. She tried the handle. Locked. Her stomach tightened. Mrs. Ruiz. Nothing. Claire moved to her apartment. The door was open by less than an inch. She pushed it with 2 fingers. Darkness waited inside. The saucepan still sat beneath the leak. Water struck it with the same patient rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Claire stepped over the threshold. Lily. No answer. Her bag slipped from her shoulder. A man moved near the window. Claire reached for the nearest object, a heavy glass jar filled with brushes. A lamp came on. Mrs. Ruiz sat on the couch. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. Her face was wet with tears. 2 men in dark suits stood behind her. A third man examined the wrapped painting Claire had delivered back from Malcolm's office. Dominic Vale stood beside the kitchen table. He had removed his suit jacket. His black shirt remained dry despite the rain. Claire raised the jar. "Where is my daughter?" Dominic looked at her as if he had expected the question before anything else. "Claire Bennett. Where is Lily?" A small voice came from behind the curtain. "Mom?" Claire dropped the jar and ran. She pulled the curtain aside. Lily sat on the bed in her pajamas with the stuffed rabbit pressed to her chest. One of her pink shoes was still on. The other lay near the wall. Claire fell to her knees and pulled her close. "I am here." Lily buried her face against Claire's neck. "There are men in our house." "I know." Mrs. Ruiz was scared. "I know." "Are they bad?" Claire closed her eyes. Dominic answered from the doorway. "That depends who tells the story." Claire turned on him. "Get out!" One of his men shifted. Dominic lifted a hand. The man stopped. Claire stood with Lily in her arms. "You broke into my home." The door was already open. "That is not the defense you think it is." Dominic's gaze moved around the small room. He saw the blankets, the inhaler, the cracked plaster, and the plastic cups on the floor. His eyes returned to Claire. "Malcolm Pierce gave your address to men working for a private buyer. You bought the painting. I bought it publicly. What is the difference? The private buyer intended to purchase the artist." Claire held Lily tighter. Dominic reached into his pocket. Claire stepped back. He stopped. Slowly he removed a folded photograph and placed it on the bedside crate. Claire did not touch it. The photograph showed Lily outside her preschool. Another showed Mrs. Ruiz carrying groceries. A third showed the entrance to the apartment building. Claire's skin went cold. "Where did you get those? Pierce had them in his office." "Why were you in his office?" Dominic did not answer. Claire looked at the photographs again. The image of Lily had been taken that morning. Lily whispered, "Mom, who took my picture?" Claire pressed her lips to her daughter's hair. "I do not know." Dominic watched her. Pierce promised Whitmore's people access to the painter behind the false vase. The name struck harder than the photographs. Claire kept her face still. Whitmore, Conrad Whitmore. Mrs. Ruiz made a small sound from the other room. Dominic noticed Claire's silence. His eyes sharpened. "You know the name. Everyone in Boston knows it. Not the way you do." Claire forced herself to breathe. "You came into my home to ask questions. I came because Whitmore's men were 6 minutes behind me." "Then call the police." Dominic looked toward the window. "The police already know who owns this neighborhood, you know." The answer unsettled her more than pride would have. Dominic stepped into the room. Claire moved between him and Lily. He stopped again. "Pack a bag." "No." The word left before fear could soften it. The room went still. Dominic studied her. Most men became louder when denied. He became quieter. "Claire, you do not enter my home, frighten my neighbor, and tell me what to do. Whitmore knows where your daughter sleeps. And you think that makes you better. I think it makes me early." Anger flashed through her. "You do not get to call fear protection." His expression changed. Not much. Enough. Perhaps no one had ever said that to him. Dominic lowered his voice. "There are 2 vehicles parked 1 block east. 4 men inside. One of them worked for Whitmore's private security division before his record disappeared. You can remain here and discover why they came. Or you can take your daughter somewhere they cannot reach tonight." Claire looked toward Mrs. Ruiz. The older woman nodded once too quickly. Fear had hollowed her face. Lily's fingers tightened around Claire's wet shirt. "Are we leaving?" Claire stared at Dominic. "This is not a choice." "No," at least he did not lie. "It is the time available." Claire hated him for the calmness of it. She hated Malcolm more. Most of all, she hated the old name that had reached across years and found her again. She set Lily on the bed. "Shoes, sweetheart." Lily looked at the one still on her foot. "I lost the other." Claire found it beneath the folding chair. The blue stain showed clearly across the toe. She tied both laces, then pulled a canvas bag from the closet. She packed Lily's clothes first. 2 sweaters, 3 shirts, the inhaler, fever medicine, her favorite book. The stuffed rabbit remained in Lily's arms. Claire added 1 pair of jeans, clean socks, her sketchbook, and the envelope of cash. Dominic stood in the doorway without speaking. His silence felt like another form of pressure. Claire turned. "If anyone touches Mrs. Ruiz after we leave, I will make sure every reporter in Boston knows you entered this building." One of Dominic's men almost smiled. Dominic did not. "Mrs. Ruiz will be safe." "You cannot promise that." "I can." Claire believed him. That was not comfort. She carried the bag into the living room. Mrs. Ruiz stood. "I am sorry," she whispered. Claire shook her head. "You did nothing wrong. They came before him. They asked about Lily. I told them nothing." Claire embraced her with one arm. "You did exactly right." Dominic looked toward his men. "Move her to her sister's home tonight." Claire turned sharply. "She decides where she goes." Dominic's eyes met hers. Mrs. Ruiz spoke before he could. "My sister lives in Quincy." Claire looked at her. "Do you want to go?" "Yes." Only then did Claire nod. Dominic opened the apartment door. Rain moved through the broken hallway window. "Ladies first," he said. Claire passed him without answering. A black sport utility vehicle waited outside beneath the dead street lamp. Another vehicle idled near the corner. A man opened the rear door. Claire climbed inside with Lily on her lap. Dominic entered from the opposite side. The doors closed. Locks clicked softly. Claire heard the sound. Dominic heard her hear it. "Unlock them. The vehicle locks while moving." "It is not moving." Dominic looked toward the driver. The locks released. Claire said nothing. The vehicle pulled away. Boston slid past the dark windows in streaks of white and amber. Lily rested against Claire's chest. Her breathing gradually slowed. Dominic sat across from them. He had put his jacket back on. His hands rested loosely near his knees. Claire watched every movement. After several blocks, he said, "How old is she?" 5. "Her father." "None of your business." Dominic looked at Lily. The child's eyes remained closed. "Most things become my business when men carrying guns approach them." Claire tightened her arm around her daughter. "Then stop being one of the men carrying guns." His gaze returned to her. The city thinned beyond the window. Brick buildings gave way to dark residential streets. Then came the highway wet beneath the headlights. "Where are you taking us?" Claire asked. "Marblehead. To one of your houses, to Greyhaven." "That is not an answer. It is the safest property I control." "Control seems important to you. It keeps people alive. It also gives men an excuse to ignore what other people want." Dominic leaned back. "You speak as if those things cannot exist together. They rarely do." For a while, only the sound of tires against wet pavement filled the vehicle. Lily opened her eyes. "Are we going to a hotel?" "No," Claire said. Dominic answered at the same time. "Yes." Claire looked at him. He looked at Lily. "A private hotel." Lily considered this. "Does it have pancakes?" Dominic paused. "I can arrange pancakes. Mom makes shapes." "What shapes?" "Mostly circles." Claire stared at the window. Dominic's mouth moved slightly. Lily settled again. The road curved toward the coast. The smell of the ocean entered through the ventilation system. Houses became larger and farther apart. Stone walls appeared beside the road. At last, the vehicle turned through iron gates. A long driveway passed beneath bare trees. Greyhaven rose from the darkness above the water. The estate had been built from gray stone with tall windows facing the Atlantic. Lights glowed inside. Waves struck the rocks below with a sound too distant to be comforting. Claire looked at the security cameras near the gate. 2 guards stood beneath the entrance canopy. A third walked along the side of the house with a dog. "It is a fortress," she said. Dominic watched her. "It has survived worse than weather." The vehicle stopped. The rear door opened. Cold wind rushed inside. Claire carried Lily up the stone steps. Dominic followed with the bag. Claire turned. "I can carry it." "I know. Then give it to me." He did. The front doors opened. An older woman stood inside the foyer wearing a silk robe and dark red lipstick. Her silver hair was pinned neatly despite the hour. Her eyes moved from Dominic to Claire, then to the sleeping child. Dominic Anthony Vale. His expression changed by less than a degree. "Grandmother, you bring a soaked woman and a frightened child into my home after midnight and greet me as though I interrupted you." Claire looked between them. The woman stepped closer. "I am Evelyn Vale." "Claire Bennett." Evelyn looked at Dominic. "Did Miss Bennett arrive by choice?" "No," Claire said. Dominic answered at the same time. "She arrived alive." Evelyn's eyes hardened. "Those are not the same thing." Claire almost liked her. A woman in her 50s appeared from a hallway tying a robe around herself. Her face was warm, alert, and tired. Teresa Evelyn said, "Prepare the East Room. Fresh blankets. Something warm for the child." Claire shifted Lily higher. "We are not staying." Dominic looked at her. "You are tonight." Claire felt anger rise again. Evelyn turned to him. "You may control men at the harbor. You do not control every sentence spoken inside this house." Dominic did not answer. Teresa approached slowly. "May I show you upstairs?" Claire looked at the woman's empty hands, then at Lily. "Yes." The room Teresa prepared was larger than Claire's entire apartment. A wide bed stood beneath tall windows. A fireplace occupied one wall. The ocean moved beyond the glass, black and restless. Claire placed Lily beneath the blankets. Teresa set the inhaler on the bedside table. "There is food in the kitchen when she wakes." "Thank you. Dry clothes are in the wardrobe. They may not fit perfectly." Claire looked at the folded sweater and cotton pants. "Why are you helping him?" Teresa glanced toward the open door. "I am helping the child." The answer was simple enough to trust. After Teresa left, Claire tested the windows. They opened only several inches. She checked the bathroom. No second door. The bedroom lock worked from the inside. She turned it. Only then did she lie beside Lily. Sleep came in pieces. The house creaked. Wind pressed against the windows. Each time footsteps passed in the corridor, Claire opened her eyes. Morning arrived, gray and cold. Lily woke first. She sat beneath the blankets and looked toward the ocean. "Mom." Claire opened her eyes. "There is a whole ocean outside." "I see it." "Are we rich now?" Claire sat up. "No." Lily looked around the room. "Then why is the bed so big rich people get tired in more directions?" Lily laughed. The sound loosened something in Claire's chest. They found the kitchen by following the smell of coffee. Teresa stood at the stove making pancakes. Evelyn sat at a stone island reading a newspaper. Lily climbed onto a stool. "Are those shapes?" Teresa looked at the pan. They began as rabbits. Lily studied the uneven circles. "They look like clouds." "Then they are clouds." Claire remained standing. Evelyn folded the newspaper. Dominic does not usually bring strangers here. I am not here because he invited me. I gathered that. Then you know we are leaving. Evelyn lifted her coffee. I know my grandson believes danger gives him permission to make decisions for other people. Claire waited. Evelyn's gaze remained steady. I also know Conrad Whitmore sent armed men toward your home. Claire's fingers tightened around the back of Lily's stool. How do you know that in this family information arrives before breakfast? Dominic entered. He wore dark trousers and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. He looked as if he had already been awake for hours. Lily looked up. Mr. Vale Teresa made cloud pancakes. Dominic glanced toward the plate. A rare achievement. Do you want one? I do not eat clouds. Lily frowned. You should try things. Evelyn hid a smile behind her cup. Claire stood. We need to talk. Dominic looked at her. Yes, now. He nodded toward the hall. After you. Claire kissed Lily's hair. Stay with Teresa. Lily was already cutting a pancake into smaller clouds. Claire followed Dominic through a corridor lined with paintings. Not decorations. Real work. Storms over empty fields. Portraits with unsmiling faces. Abstract canvases carrying more grief than color. Dominic opened double doors at the end of the hall. The studio faced the ocean. Tall windows filled the room with pale light. Brushes stood inside glass jars. Pigments lined wooden shelves. Several canvases leaned against the walls beneath linen covers. Claire stopped despite herself. The room smelled of oil wax and old wood. It was the first honest room she had seen in the house. Dominic closed the door. Leave it open. Why? So I can hear Lily. She is with Teresa. Claire turned. Leave it open. Dominic studied her. Then he opened it again. The small obedience unsettled her more than an argument would have. He crossed to a covered painting and removed the cloth. Claire forgot to breathe. The canvas showed a woman standing at the edge of a winter sea. Her face was turned away. A red scarf moved behind her like a wound in the wind. The lower corner contained a small black star. Mara Voss. A real Mara Voss. Claire stepped closer. The surface carried age correction and hesitation. Beneath the final layers, she could see where the artist had changed the position of the woman's shoulder. No reproduction had ever shown that. Where did you get this? Dominic did not answer. Claire turned. Another Mara Voss hung above the fireplace. A third leaned beside the windows. A fourth rested inside an open storage frame. There are only 7 confirmed works. Publicly, you own 4. Yes, that is impossible. Most impossible things become possible when enough people are willing to keep quiet. Claire looked at him. You bought my painting because of these. I bought your painting because someone used my mother's work to create a lie. Claire stared. Your mother? Dominic reached for a black portfolio on the work table. He removed a mounted photograph and placed it before her. The image showed a woman crossing a frozen rail yard with a child beside her. Long shadows cut across the snow. A rectangle of light appeared between 2 abandoned freight cars. Claire knew the painting. She had stood before it as a child inside Whitmore House. She remembered Conrad's hand on her shoulder. She remembered wanting the painted woman to turn around and see her. Claire forced her face to remain still. What is this? The final Mara Voss. There is no final painting. There is. Who owns it? Dominic watched her hands. Conrad Whitmore. Claire looked down at the photograph. The woman in the painting leaned forward, pulling the child toward the opening. The child's body was blurred, not unfinished. Remembered. Dominic spoke quietly. The original is called A Door in Winter. Claire's throat tightened. What do you want from me? I want you to reproduce it. She looked at him. You want another forgery? I want a replacement. Rich men love different words for the same crime. I will pay you $4 million. The amount entered the room and changed its weight. 4 million. A home with working heat. A school where Lily would not need borrowed shoes. Doctors without payment plans. Food without counting coins. A life where every emergency did not become a decision between two necessary things. Dominic saw the number reach her. Claire hated him for noticing. You forced me into a car, she said. Now you are offering me employment. I removed you from a situation that would have ended badly. You keep describing control as rescue. I am describing the facts. Your facts always seem to place you in charge. Dominic placed both hands on the work table. Whitmore wants the person who painted Harbor Without Stars. Malcolm Pierce was paid to identify that person. Until I know why you and Lily remain at risk. Claire stepped closer. And if I refuse, you remain here until the threat is contained. Her stomach turned. So this is a prison. It is a secure estate. Can I take my daughter and walk through the front gate? No. Then call it what it is. Something passed through his expression. Not anger. Recognition. Claire looked at the photograph again. The painted child reached toward the light. She spoke without turning. If I do this, Lily is not leverage. She will not be harmed. That is not what I said. You do not use her fear to control me. You do not speak to her about danger without my permission. No one touches her unless I agree. Dominic's voice remained steady. Agreed. You do not enter our room. Agreed. The money goes through a legal contract into an account I control. Agreed. I choose the materials, the schedule, and the process. Yes. When the operation is over, we leave. Dominic paused. When the threat is over. Claire faced him. That is not the same sentence. No. At least he remained honest. She hated that honesty could exist inside a threat. Dominic gestured toward the blank canvas waiting on the central easel. The materials are prepared. You planned this before the auction. Yes. You knew I might be there. I hoped you would be. Claire looked at him, so I was never a surprise. Dominic's gaze dropped briefly to the blue beneath her fingernails. You became one when you spoke. Claire turned away before he could see the heat in her face. She approached the work table. Pigments had been arranged with almost obsessive care. Ultramarine, ivory black, raw umber. Lead white sealed inside a protective jar. Linseed oil. Aging compounds. Historic brushes. Everything she would need to build a convincing lie. Claire picked up the photograph of a door in winter. The woman ran through the frozen yard. The child stayed close beside her. The light ahead was narrow, uncertain, and open. Claire reached for a brush. Behind her, Dominic said, Once you begin, there is no half measure. Claire dipped the bristles into the blue-gray mixture. There never is. She touched the brush to the blank canvas. The first stroke went flat beneath the morning light. Dead. Ordinary. Wrong. Claire stared at it. Dominic stood silently near the open door. Beyond the studio, Lily laughed at something Teresa had said. Claire lifted the brush again and mixed more darkness into the blue. The blue remained wrong. Claire mixed another shade, then another. Ultramarine with ivory black. Raw umber with the smallest touch of white. A colder glaze. A warmer shadow. Nothing worked. Every attempt looked like paint. The blue in the photograph did not. It looked like grief pretending to be weather. By noon, 7 failed samples dried along the lower edge of the canvas. Claire stood before them with her arms crossed. Her hair had slipped loose from its knot. A streak of pigment marked the inside of her wrist. Lily sat near the windows with paper spread across the floor. She had been painting a purple animal with 6 legs and 1 enormous eye. "What is it?" Claire asked. "A horse." Claire studied it. "Of course. It is running sideways." "That explains the legs." Lily nodded with complete seriousness. Teresa entered carrying coffee and a plate of sliced apples. "You have been standing in the same place for 20 minutes. I have been thinking. Your daughter said your face was stuck." Claire looked at Lily. Lily kept painting. Teresa placed the coffee near the brushes. "Mr. Vale asked whether you needed anything. I need him to stop asking Teresa to ask me things." A quiet smile touched Teresa's mouth. "You could tell him." "I have." "Yes. I imagine that went beautifully." Claire lifted the cup. "How long have you worked here long enough to know when not to answer questions?" "That sounds exhausting." "It becomes efficient." Footsteps approached from the corridor. Teresa's expression changed before Dominic appeared. Not fear. Awareness. The same awareness everyone in his world seemed to carry. Dominic entered without a jacket. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms. A phone rested in one hand. Claire noticed the faint red mark across his knuckles. He had hit someone, or something. She hated that the distinction mattered. Dominic looked at the canvas. "The blue is wrong." Claire took a slow drink of coffee. "I thought it was perfect. It is too clean. That is not a technical observation. It is still true." Claire set the cup down. "You have an opinion about everything. Only the things in my house. This painting is mine until I finish it." Dominic looked at her. "Then the blue in your painting is wrong." Lily lifted her purple horse. "Mine is right." Dominic turned toward her. "It has 6 legs. It is faster." He considered this. "Then it is right." Lily smiled. Claire looked away before Dominic caught her doing the same. He stepped closer to the work table, though he kept several feet between them. "Use lead white beneath the next layer." Claire's gaze sharpened. "You know historical pigment, my mother used it. Lead white is dangerous. So am I. That is not a reason to put either of you near a child." Something shifted in his expression. He glanced toward Lily. "You are right." The answer came too easily. Claire had expected defiance. She picked up the sealed pigment jar. "Why lead white?" "It traps light." That is not how paint works. It is how she described it. Claire paused. "Your mother." Dominic looked at the photograph of a door in winter. She said modern white sat on the surface. Lead white carried weight. If she wanted light to feel trapped beneath a color, she buried it there. Claire opened the jar carefully. She mixed a small amount into the gray-blue, then added oil until the paint softened beneath the knife. The new mixture looked almost unchanged. She brushed it across the sample board. The color settled into the fibers. Not brighter, deeper, as if a pale light had been placed beneath frozen water. Claire stopped moving. Dominic watched her face. "There," he said. She turned toward him. "How did you know my mother painted in this room?" Claire looked around. The windows, the shelves, the worn section of floor beside the easel. The studio had not been created for Claire. It had been preserved. "Where are her paintings?" Dominic's face closed. "You are looking at them. That is not what I asked." "No." He stepped away. Claire followed him with her eyes. "What was her name?" He remained silent long enough that she thought he would refuse. "Elena." The name entered the room softly. Lily dipped her brush into red. "My middle name is Elena." Claire turned. "No, it is not. I think it should be." Dominic almost smiled. Claire saw it before he looked away. "Did Elena teach you to paint?" Claire asked. She tried. You were bad. I was impatient. That sounds more accurate. Dominic glanced at her. This time the smile appeared. Small, unprepared, real. It changed his face enough to make Claire uncomfortable. Danger was easier when it looked like danger. Lily reached for the water cup and knocked it over. Blue water spread across the floor and touched Dominic's shoe. Lily froze. I am sorry. Dominic looked down at the stain on the polished leather. Claire moved toward the towels. Dominic crouched first and caught the cup before the rest spilled. Lily watched him carefully. You are not mad. No. Mom gets mad when paint gets on shoes. Claire returned with a cloth. Mom owns one pair. Dominic looked at Claire's worn sneakers. His gaze lingered for half a second. She noticed. He noticed that she noticed. Lily pointed at his shoe. It has color now. Dominic looked at the blue stain. It needed some. Lily laughed. The sound filled the room. Dominic remained still for a moment, as if laughter directed at him was something he had forgotten how to receive. Teresa collected the wet towels. Come with me, Lily. We will find you a smock. What is a smock? A shirt designed to lose arguments with paint. Lily approved. She followed Teresa into the corridor, carrying the purple horse. Claire watched until they disappeared. The studio felt larger without her. Dominic stood. You do not trust Teresa. I trust her more than I trust you. That is not difficult. At least we agree. Claire returned to the canvas. Dominic did not leave. She felt his attention settle between her shoulder blades. Do you always watch people work? Only when I am paying $4 million. You are paying for the result. I am paying for the risk. Claire turned. Whose risk, yours? Mine. Everyone protecting you. I did not ask to be protected. No, you were busy being followed. Claire placed the brush down carefully. You keep returning to that, as if saving me once gives you ownership of every decision afterward. Dominic's jaw tightened. I do not own you. Then unlock the gates. Silence. The ocean struck the rocks below. Claire nodded. That is what I thought. She turned back to the canvas. Dominic spoke more quietly. If you leave now, Whitmore finds you. Then tell me everything you know. I am trying. No. You are selecting what I am allowed to hear. He said nothing. Claire lifted the brush again. Your mother painted locked light. You inherited locked doors. The words landed harder than she expected. Dominic left without answering. By late afternoon, the first layer began to breathe. Claire stopped looking at the photograph. Her memory supplied the shape of the rail yard, the angle of the woman's coat, the way the child's arm stretched forward. She did not want to remember Whitmore House. Memory arrived anyway. A west gallery with polished floors, Conrad standing behind her, his hand on her shoulder, his voice telling her not to touch the frame. A woman painted in winter forever running toward a narrow opening. Claire had been 9 the first time she saw it. She had thought the child in the painting was trying to escape. At 17, she understood the woman was escaping too. Lily returned from the garden with grass stains on her knees and a yellow flower tucked behind one ear. Mr. Vale has a fountain. Claire looked toward Teresa. She stayed away from the water. I did, Lily said. But Mr. Vale did not. Claire turned toward the window. Dominic stood near the stone fountain below. His shirt was wet across one shoulder. Noah Kane stood several yards away, failing to hide his amusement. Lily pressed both hands to the glass. I sprayed him. With permission, Teresa said. Claire looked at Dominic. He raised his eyes toward the window. For a moment, neither of them moved. Lily waved. Dominic looked at the wet shoulder of his shirt, then raised one hand. Can we keep him? Lily asked. Claire choked on air. Teresa turned away. Dominic Vale is not a stray animal. Lily thought about it. He is big like a dog. Claire pressed her lips together. Go wash your hands. Lily ran toward the bathroom. When Claire looked outside again, Dominic was still watching the window. That evening, Evelyn joined them in the kitchen. The formal dining room had been prepared, but Lily refused to eat somewhere with chairs that looked angry. Teresa served roast chicken and potatoes at the kitchen table instead. Dominic arrived halfway through the meal. He sat across from Claire. Lily immediately pushed the plate of green beans toward him. You should try things. Dominic looked at the vegetables. I have tried green beans. Then why are they still there? Evelyn lifted her wine. She has identified a weakness. Dominic took one. Lily smiled in victory. Claire lowered her eyes to her plate. The scene felt too normal. That made it dangerous. Normal things invited hope. Hope had opened more doors to pain than fear ever had. After dinner, Teresa took Lily upstairs for a bath. Claire carried plates to the sink. Evelyn remained seated. You do not have to earn the food, she said. Claire turned on the water. I know. Do you? Claire looked over her shoulder. Evelyn's gaze was direct, but not unkind. My grandson brought you here for a reason. He wants a painting. Dominic has wanted many things. He has not brought all of them home. Claire dried her hands. I am not something he brought home. Good. Evelyn finished her wine. Keep saying that. Claire studied her. You think he needs to hear it? I think men in powerful families are often taught that protection and possession are the same act. That sounds like an excuse. It is a warning. Dominic appeared in the doorway. Grandmother. Evelyn did not turn. Some truths remain true when you enter the room. His expression cooled. Teresa is looking for you. No, she is not. Evelyn rose. She passed Dominic without another word. Claire watched him watch her leave. What did she mean? Claire asked. You ask too many questions. You hide too many answers. Dominic crossed to the island. My family survived because we learned which truths could be spoken safely. And your mother? His eyes changed. Claire regretted the question, but she did not take it back. Dominic placed one hand on the counter. My mother believed truth became more dangerous when buried. Is that why she painted? Yes. Is that why Whitmore owns her final work? Dominic looked at her sharply. You sound certain it is final. Claire felt the mistake immediately. She turned toward the sink. I studied the photograph. You stopped looking at it after 2 hours. Painters remember patterns. Not like that. Claire dried the same plate twice. Dominic's voice lowered. You know the painting. She set the plate down. I am tired. He moved aside, leaving the doorway open. Claire walked past him. His voice followed her into the hall. You know Whitmore, too. She did not stop. That night, Claire could not sleep. Lily lay across the center of the bed with one foot outside the blanket. Wind pressed against the windows. Moonlight moved across the ceiling. Claire listened to the house settle. At 2:40, she gave up. She tucked a pillow beside Lily and crossed the hall. The studio door stood open. Claire entered without turning on the lights. The unfinished canvas glowed faintly beneath the moon. The blue looked closer now. Still not right. You are painting too much fear into it. Claire spun. Dominic sat on the floor near the far wall. One knee was raised. A glass rested beside him untouched. He wore dark pants and a thin gray shirt. His hair had fallen forward across his forehead. Without the suit, he looked younger. Not harmless. Never harmless. What are you doing in the dark sitting? You sit like a criminal. I am a criminal. At least we have reached honesty. He stood. Claire turned back to the canvas. The woman is afraid. Yes. Then the fear belongs there. Not all of it. Dominic stepped beside her. Claire remained aware of the space between them. The woman is moving towards something, he said. Fear is behind her. Claire looked at the painted figure. No. Fear is beside her. It moves with her. Dominic said nothing. She could feel him studying her profile. What she asked. You speak as if you know. Claire folded her arms. I know what running looks like. From what no. The word came quietly. Dominic's gaze sharpened. He did not challenge it. Instead, he crossed toward the corridor. Come with me. No. You do not know where I am taking you. I know who is asking. His mouth curved faintly. I am showing you the rest. Claire's pulse changed. The rest of Elena's paintings, Dominic entered the hall. Claire followed. They moved through the sleeping house and descended a narrow back staircase. Polished wood gave way to stone. The air grew colder. At the end of the lower corridor stood a steel door with a keypad. Dominic entered the code without covering it. Claire noticed. Careless. Trusting. No. He looked at her. She had used the word before thinking. Something quiet passed between them. Dominic opened the door. Climate-controlled air moved across Claire's skin. 5 paintings hung beneath narrow lights. She stepped inside and forgot him. These were not the polished images reproduced in books. Up close, the surfaces revealed hesitation. Scraped lines, repainted hands, colors buried beneath other colors. Elena had changed her mind visibly. She had allowed the paint to remember. Claire moved from one canvas to the next. A kitchen with an open window. A woman seated beside a black river. A hallway filled with sunlight but no doors. A child sleeping beneath a table while adults stood beyond the frame. Claire stopped before that one. The child's hair had been painted with only 4 strokes. The adults appeared as shadows. She was better than the photographs, Claire whispered. Yes. Evelyn's voice came from the doorway. Claire turned. The older woman stood behind Dominic in a dark robe. Her face had gone pale. You finally brought her here. Dominic's jaw tightened. Not now. Evelyn entered. Her gaze moved over the paintings as if she were greeting the dead. Elena Vale was Mara Voss. Claire looked toward Dominic. His expression revealed nothing. Evelyn continued. She used another name because the Vale name entered every room before she did. Mara Voss belonged only to her. The public records say Mara Voss disappeared, Claire said. She did. Evelyn stopped before the painting of the sleeping child. She disappeared into this family. Dominic's hand closed at his side. Enough. Evelyn looked at him. You have spent 15 years protecting the truth from the people who should hear it. I said enough. Claire looked between them. How did Elena die? No one answered. The silence did. Evelyn turned toward her. Officially, her car left a wet road north of Salem, and unofficially, powerful men often call something an accident when the dead woman cannot disagree. Dominic's face became stone. Claire looked at the paintings. Conrad Whitmore. His name changed the room. Evelyn nodded. He financed Elena's first exhibition. He bought galleries, critics, and access. He said he believed in her work. What did he want to be the reason she existed? Claire understood. Men like Conrad did not support talent. They surrounded it until gratitude became a cage. The final painting was never meant for him, Evelyn said. Elena painted it after she decided to leave Boston. A door in winter. Claire whispered. Evelyn looked at her. How do you know the title? Claire's stomach tightened. Dominic turned fully toward her. She had spoken too quickly. Evelyn waited. Claire forced a shrug. The photograph suggested it. No, Dominic said. His voice was low. Claire moved toward the door. Dominic stepped into her path. Not touching. Blocking. You know the painting. I know what it looks like. You know where it was kept. Claire lifted her chin. Move. Who is Conrad Whitmore to you? Move. Dominic stayed where he was. The lights hummed above them. Claire's back touched the stone wall. Dominic lifted one hand toward her face. She caught his wrist. No. Everything stopped. His skin was warm beneath her fingers. Dominic looked at her hand around his wrist, then at her face. Claire held on. I said no. For most of his life, men had obeyed him before he finished speaking. Now he stood in his own vault, stopped by a woman he had brought there against her will. His voice dropped. If you mean it, say it again like you expect me to listen. Claire's fear remained in her body. She let him see it. No, you do not get to touch me. You do not get to order the truth out of me. And you do not get to call this protection while I am standing behind a locked door. Dominic held her gaze. Then he stepped back. He entered the code. The steel door opened. Claire released his wrist. Before she could move, a gunshot cracked through the ceiling. The vault lights flickered. An alarm began to sound. Noah's voice came through Dominic's radio. East Gate breach. 2 vehicles. 4 men inside the outer wall. Dominic drew a pistol from behind his back. Claire looked toward the stairs. Lily. She is with Teresa. That is not good enough. Claire ran. Dominic moved ahead of her as they climbed. Smoke drifted along the upper corridor. Men shouted near the front hall. Claire reached the landing and saw one of Lily's pink shoes lying near the wall. Her heart stopped. Lily. A door opened. Teresa emerged from the safe room carrying Lily against her shoulder. The child wore one shoe. Mom Claire pulled her from Teresa's arms. Lily clung to her neck. I lost it. I found it. Claire pressed her face against Lily's hair. Dominic stood several feet away, weapon lowered. Noah approached. Scouts. They tested the east gate and withdrew after the first shot. No one entered the main house. Dominic looked toward the windows. Whitmore wanted to know how fast we moved. Claire held Lily tighter. Dominic's gaze returned to her. He did not come for the painting. Claire looked at him. He came for you. The alarm stopped. Silence filled the corridor. Lily touched Claire's cheek. Why would he come for Mom? Claire closed her eyes. The name she had buried waited behind her teeth. She carried Lily back to the bedroom and remained there until the child fell asleep. Dominic waited outside. Claire knew because his shadow remained beneath the door. At dawn, she opened it. He stood near the window at the end of the corridor. The ocean beyond him was colorless. Claire walked toward him. My name was Claire Whitmore. Dominic did not speak. Conrad is my father. The words made the past real again. Claire folded her arms across her chest. I left when I was 23. He wanted me to marry a man whose family owned half the construction contracts in Massachusetts. I was pregnant with Lily. Dominic's face hardened. What happened to her father? Conrad paid him. To leave, to disappear. Claire looked toward the bedroom door. He told me I could return home, marry the man he selected, and raise Lily properly. If I refused, he would prove I was unstable and take her. Dominic's hands closed. Claire noticed. Do not make this about your anger. He threatened your child. He threatened mine. That distinction matters. Dominic took a slow breath. Did Malcolm know I do not know? He found me after I changed my name. He knew enough to sell your address. Claire looked at him. You said Whitmore wanted the painter. He wanted me. Yes. You knew before tonight. No, but you suspected. Dominic did not answer quickly enough. Claire understood. What did you do? I arranged a meeting. Her body went cold. With Conrad. At the Atlantic Crown Club. When tonight? Claire stared at him. You planned to bring me there. I needed to see his reaction. You needed proof. Yes, and I was the test. Dominic stepped closer. I would not have allowed him near you. Claire laughed once. You still do not hear yourself. That evening she wore a black dress Evelyn selected from a wardrobe upstairs. Claire had refused the diamonds. She had refused Dominic's driver until Lily was asleep and Teresa promised not to leave the room. She had almost refused the meeting entirely. Then she remembered the photographs outside the preschool. The Atlantic Crown Club occupied the top floor of a stone building overlooking Boston Harbor. Its members included judges, executives, and men whose crimes had never become public. Dominic entered beside Claire. Every conversation shifted. Claire felt the same reaction she had witnessed at the auction. People did not welcome him. They adjusted around him. He placed one hand near the center of her back without touching. Claire noticed the restraint. It did not erase the purpose of the evening. A waiter led them toward a private dining room. The doors opened. Conrad Whitmore stood beside the windows. Time did not soften him. His hair had turned silver, but his posture remained exact. His navy suit fit perfectly. A white handkerchief rested in his breast pocket. He looked at Dominic first, then at Claire. For one moment, every polished expression left his face. Claire. Her old name sounded like a command. Conrad approached. Dominic moved between them. Conrad stopped. His gaze returned to Claire. You have made this difficult. Claire's hands went cold. She kept them at her sides. You sent men to my home. I sent people to bring my daughter back. I am not your daughter. Conrad smiled gently. It was the smile she remembered most, the one he used before explaining why her own wishes were unreasonable. Blood does not change because you are angry. No, but names do. His gaze lowered to her dress, her hair the bruised exhaustion beneath her eyes. You look tired. I was happier when you did not know where I lived. Were you in that apartment, selling copies to Malcolm Pierce? Claire felt Dominic turn slightly toward her. Conrad saw it. He did not tell you everything Conrad said. Claire looked at Dominic. The silence between them opened. Conrad continued. Men like Vale rarely do. Dominic's voice went cold. Careful. Conrad looked amused. You bring my daughter into my club and warn me about manners. Claire stepped away from both men. One of you wants me obedient, the other wants me useful. Dominic looked at her. Claire. No. The word cut through the room. She faced him. You knew he would be here. You brought me without telling me because you wanted to watch his face. I needed confirmation. I needed one man in my life to believe me before using me. Dominic had no answer. Conrad extended his hand. Come home. Claire looked at it. The hand that had selected her schools, her clothes, her friends, her future. The hand that had rested on her shoulder while she stared at Elena's painting. Claire met his eyes. I would rather sleep under a leaking roof. She turned and walked out. Dominic followed her into the corridor. Claire. She stopped near the elevator. You do not get to explain this away. I was trying to protect you. You used me. I needed to know whether Whitmore recognized you. You could have asked. You would have lied. Yes. Dominic's jaw tightened. Claire stepped closer. That was still my lie to keep. The elevator doors opened. She entered. Dominic did not follow. Claire pressed the button for the lobby. Before the doors closed, she looked at him. You are not Conrad. Dominic's expression changed. Then she finished. But tonight, you wanted the same thing he did. The doors closed between them. The elevator carried Claire toward the lobby while her reflection watched from 3 mirrored walls. The woman in the black dress looked composed. Claire did not feel composed. Her hands trembled at her sides. Her father's voice remained inside her head, smooth and certain as if the years between them had been a childish misunderstanding. "Come home." He had said it as though home were not the place where every door locked from the outside. The elevator opened. Claire crossed the marble lobby, ignored the attendant calling after her, and stepped into the cold Boston night. Rain had stopped, but the streets still shone beneath the lamps. Cars moved along the harbor road in streaks of white and red. Claire walked without knowing where she intended to go. Her coat was still upstairs. Her phone had almost no battery. Greyhaven stood miles away. None of it mattered. She needed distance from Dominic before his explanations found a way to sound reasonable. A black car pulled to the curb. Noah stepped out. Claire kept walking. "Claire." "Do not. I am not here to stop you. That would make you the first man tonight." Noah remained beside the car. "Dominic told me to take you anywhere you choose." She turned. "He sent you?" "He stayed upstairs." The answer surprised her. Claire looked toward the upper windows of the club. She could not see Dominic, only light and the faint silhouettes of people moving behind glass. "Take me to Lily." Noah opened the rear door. Claire got inside. He did not ask questions during the drive. Greyhaven appeared above the dark ocean shortly before midnight. Claire found Lily asleep in the east bedroom with Teresa beside her. A book lay open across Teresa's lap. Teresa looked at Claire's face and closed the book. Bad evening. Claire removed her shoes. Accurate evening. She sat on the edge of the bed and touched Lily's curls. The child shifted toward her without waking. Teresa rose. "I will bring tea. I do not need tea. No one ever does." Claire almost smiled. Teresa left the room. Dominic did not come upstairs. Claire expected him to knock. She expected the sound until sunrise. It never came. The next morning she found him in the studio. He stood before the unfinished copy of A Door in Winter with both hands in his pockets. The canvas had changed overnight. Not physically. Claire had changed. She could now see the shape of Conrad behind every shadow. Dominic turned when she entered. Claire closed the studio door, then opened it again. She wanted the choice to be hers. "You lied to me. I withheld the meeting. That is a sentence men use when lie feels too ugly." Dominic accepted the blow without defending himself. Claire walked to the work table. "You brought me into a room with my father because you wanted proof." "Yes. You believed my fear enough to lock me inside your house, but not enough to trust what I said." His jaw tightened. "You had not told me who he was. I did not owe you my history." "No." The answer came quietly. Claire looked at him. He continued. "You did not." The lack of argument made her angrier. She wanted him to fight so she could push back. Instead, he stood still and let the truth remain between them. "I am finishing the painting," she said. Dominic's eyes narrowed. "Why not for you? Then, for whom, Elena?" Claire looked at the photograph. "If she hid something inside that frame, I want it found. If Conrad killed her, I want proof. If Malcolm has been using my work to move money for him, I want records. You are not going inside Whitmore House." Claire laughed. "There it is." "Claire. No. You do not get to make another decision and call it protection. Whitmore will have armed security. So will you. He knows you now. He has always known me." Dominic looked toward the ocean. Claire stepped closer to the work table. "The plan changes." His gaze returned to her. "I control the switch. You tell me every detail. No hidden meetings, no partial truths, no decisions made after I enter the room." Dominic remained silent. "The money transfers before the gala," Claire continued. "Not after. Malcolm Pierce is taken alive. The evidence goes to investigators and the press. If I say the operation stops, it stops. You expect me to place my people under your command. I expect you to decide whether you need my hands." Dominic studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and removed his phone. He called someone. "Prepare the transfer," he said. "Full amount. Today." He ended the call. Claire did not thank him. Dominic approached the canvas. "What else?" "You apologize." His expression changed. "Now, no. Not because I demanded it. When you understand what you did." Claire picked up a brush. "Until then, stay out of my way." Dominic left the studio. The door remained open behind him. Claire began again. She repainted the woman's coat first. The original photograph showed the fabric moving toward the light, but Claire remembered something the image did not reveal. The coat had once been red. Elena had buried the color beneath gray. Claire remembered standing inside the West Gallery as a child, looking closely enough to see warmth beneath the winter surface. She added a thin red layer. Then she covered it. By evening, the woman began to move. For the next 4 days, Claire worked almost without stopping. Lily painted beside her in the mornings. Teresa took her to the garden in the afternoons. Evelyn visited the studio at night and spoke quietly about Elena. She described how Elena hummed while preparing canvases, how she hated clean brushes, how she once painted over an expensive portrait because the man who commissioned it told her to make his wife look younger. Claire listened while building the copy layer by layer. Dominic stayed away unless invited. When he entered, he knocked against the open door frame. He no longer offered instructions. He answered questions. Whitmore House had 11 exterior cameras. The West Gallery used a separate alarm system. The original painting hung behind glass controlled by a concealed panel inside Conrad's library. The gala would place more than 200 guests inside the house. Conrad's political connections made a police response uncertain. Claire absorbed every detail. She also asked questions Dominic did not expect. Which servants had worked for Elena? Which entrances were original to the house? Where did the old heating passages connect? Evelyn answered the last question. "There is a service corridor behind the West Gallery," she said. "The Whitmores sealed the public entrance, but the kitchen side may still exist." Teresa stood near the shelves. Her hands stopped moving. Claire noticed. "You know it." Teresa looked toward Evelyn, then toward Dominic. "I worked at Whitmore House for 6 months." Dominic turned. When the year Elena died, the studio became silent. Teresa folded the cleaning cloth in her hands. "Elena asked me to deliver letters. I did not know what they contained. After the accident, Mr. Whitmore dismissed half the household." "Why did you never tell me?" Dominic asked. "You were 19 and angry enough to burn Boston." His voice lowered. "You should have told me." Teresa met his eyes. "Perhaps. But I was afraid of what you would do with the truth." Claire watched the words reach him. For once, Dominic did not argue. Teresa looked at Claire. "The corridor remains. The door is hidden behind the wine storage room." Claire nodded. "I need you inside." Dominic stepped forward. "No." Claire looked at him. He stopped. A beat passed. Then he corrected himself. "Why Teresa?" "Because Conrad knows every face connected to you. He will not expect the woman serving drinks to remember a door he forgot." Teresa smiled faintly. "I have been invisible in expensive rooms before." Claire understood that kind of invisibility. She placed a second blank canvas on the easel after midnight. No one saw her begin. The first copy rested near the windows almost complete. The second remained hidden behind a storage screen at the far end of the studio. Claire painted it when Lily slept and the household grew quiet. She did not tell Dominic. Trust was not the same as surrender. She made the second painting nearly identical, then altered details so small only she could identify them. One rail ended half an inch early. The child's left hand carried a faint line of violet beneath the gray. The black star in the corner leaned toward the frame. The first copy was for Dominic's plan. The second belonged to Claire's. 2 days before the gala, the money entered her account. Claire stared at the number on the screen. $4 million. No conditions appeared beside it. No name owned the funds but hers. She expected relief. Instead, she felt frightened. Money had always arrived from men who wanted obedience in return. She closed the banking application and placed the phone face down. Lily entered the studio holding a paper crown. "You are rich now." Claire turned. "Who told you that Mr. Noah said you could buy a boat?" From the corridor, Noah said, "I said she could afford a boat." Claire looked at him. He lifted both hands. Different sentence. Lily placed the crown on Claire's head. "Can we buy a purple house? We are not buying anything today. Tomorrow, we will discuss colors tomorrow." Lily accepted this and ran back into the hall. Noah looked at the finished copy. "You can really fool Whitmore with that." Claire studied the painted snow. People see what pride tells them to see. "And Dominic, what about him? Can you fool him?" Claire looked at Noah. Yes. He did not ask whether she already had. The gala arrived beneath a clear winter sky. Claire stood before the mirror in the east bedroom. The black dress she had worn to the club hung inside the wardrobe. She left it there. Instead, she chose a dark green gown Evelyn had offered without insisting. The fabric moved easily around her legs. Nothing tightened at her throat. Lily sat on the bed in pajamas. "You look like a tree." Claire smiled. "A beautiful tree. A serious tree. I will take it." Lily's expression changed. "Do you have to go?" Claire knelt in front of her. "Yes." "Is Mr. Dominic going?" "Yes." "Will he keep you safe?" Claire looked toward the open door. Dominic stood in the corridor wearing a black tuxedo. He had heard the question. Claire turned back to Lily. "We are going to keep each other safe." Dominic's face remained still. Something in his eyes did not. Teresa stayed with Lily until the house was secure. Before Claire left, she kissed both of Lily's palms. "Lock the door after me." Lily nodded. Dominic waited at the foot of the stairs. He offered his arm. Claire looked at it. He did not move closer. After a moment, she placed her hand lightly against his sleeve. The gesture was not forgiveness. He understood. Whitmore House stood in Brookline behind stone walls and iron gates. Lights filled every window. Valets moved beneath a white canopy. Reporters waited near the entrance. Wealthy donors gathered in black coats, silk gowns, and practiced smiles. The house looked exactly as Claire remembered. That was the cruelest part. Time had touched her. It had not touched the walls. Dominic stepped from the car first. He turned and waited. Claire placed one foot on the pavement. Cameras flashed. A reporter called Dominic's name. Another asked whether the Vale Foundation planned to support Conrad's museum expansion. Dominic ignored them. Claire emerged. The noise changed. Some recognized her from old photographs. Others recognized only that Dominic Vale had arrived with a woman no one expected. Conrad stood at the top of the steps. He smiled for the cameras. His eyes remained on Claire. "Welcome home." Claire climbed toward him. "This is not my home." Conrad extended his hand. She walked past it. Dominic followed. Inside, music drifted through the ballroom. Champagne moved between guests. A string quartet played beside the staircase where Claire had once stood while her mother cried in the room above. She saw the memory before she saw the stairs. Her mother's white dress. A broken strand of pearls. Conrad's voice behind a closed door. Claire forced her attention back to the present. Noah appeared near the library dressed as one of Dominic's security men. He touched his cuff once. The signal meant the exterior team was ready. Teresa had entered through the catering entrance 20 minutes earlier. The first copy waited inside a museum transport case in a service van beyond the kitchen. The second had already entered the house inside a floral delivery crate. Only Claire and Teresa knew that. Malcolm Pierce approached from the ballroom. He wore a white dinner jacket. His smile disappeared when he saw Claire. "You should not be here." Claire looked at him. "Neither should my paintings." Malcolm glanced at Dominic. "You have no idea what he intends to do with you. I know what you did. I gave you work. You sold my name before I trusted you with it." His face changed. "You were never as hidden as you believed." Claire stepped closer. "Did Conrad send you to find me?" Malcolm looked toward the guests. "That is not a conversation for this room. Then answer quickly." He lowered his voice. "He wanted to know whether you still painted." Claire felt cold move across her skin. "The commissions. Tests. You knew who I was from the beginning." "Not the beginning. When the restoration program. Your technique-matched work kept in the Whitmore archives." Claire remembered Malcolm standing before her student painting. The long silence. The praise. He had not discovered her. He had identified her. "You sold me back to him. I protected you for years. You kept me useful." Malcolm leaned closer. "Dominic Vale will take Elena's painting and leave you with the consequences. Men like him do not love women. They acquire vulnerabilities." Claire met his eyes. "You sold mine for $800. She walked away. Conrad raised a glass from the center of the ballroom. The music stopped. Guests turned toward him. He began speaking about culture preservation and the responsibility of powerful families to protect history. Claire almost heard Malcolm's voice inside the speech. Value, belief, access, scarcity. Noah touched his cuff twice. The camera loop had begun. Claire placed her champagne on a passing tray. Dominic moved beside her. "Ready, no." He looked at her. Claire held his gaze. "Move anyway." The lights went out. A few guests laughed. Others gasped. Emergency lights glowed along the floor. Conrad's voice came through the darkness, assuring everyone that the interruption was temporary. Claire and Dominic left through the library. Noah unlocked the private corridor. They reached the West Gallery in less than a minute. The room smelled of wax and old paper. A door in winter hung beneath its own light. Claire stopped. The original was larger than she remembered. The woman's coat carried hidden red beneath the gray. The snow held traces of green. The child's body blurred toward the opening between the freight cars. Claire felt 9 years old again. Dominic approached the painting. His face changed. Every layer of control disappeared. Mother. The word barely existed. Claire looked away. This moment did not belong to her. Noah opened the concealed panel. A soft click sounded inside the wall. The glass lifted. Dominic reached toward the frame. Claire stopped him. "Gloves." He obeyed. They removed the painting together and placed it on the padded table. Claire examined the back. Old nails, a paper seal. One corner of the lining bulged slightly beneath the wood. There. Dominic leaned closer. Claire used a thin tool to lift the edge. Inside the frame rested a sealed packet wrapped in oilcloth. Dominic stared. Claire removed it. The envelope inside bore his name. Dominic Vale. Elena's handwriting. His hand shook once before closing. Claire saw it. She placed the envelope in his palm. Another packet remained beneath it. Financial records, letters, photographs, a typed statement signed by Elena Vale. Claire read the first line. "If anything happens to me, Conrad Whitmore is responsible." The gallery door locked. The sound came from behind them. Conrad stood at the entrance. Malcolm waited beside him. 3 armed guards filled the corridor beyond. The emergency lights brightened. Conrad looked at the open frame. I wondered how long it would take you. Dominic moved in front of Claire. Conrad smiled. Still collecting damaged women. Vale. Dominic's voice became quiet. Move your men. No. Conrad looked at Claire. You found the letters. Yes, your mother found them once, too. Claire's heart stopped. What? She preferred comfort to scandal. Claire saw the staircase again. The pearls. The closed door. Where is she? Conrad's expression did not change. Gone. Dead. Some questions arrived too late. Claire stepped around Dominic. You knew Elena believed you would kill her. Elena was unstable. Dominic's hand moved toward his weapon. Claire caught his sleeve. Conrad noticed. He enjoyed it. You see, he said to Claire, this is why you belong with me. Vale knows only force. He will turn your life into a war. You turned mine into a prison. I gave you everything. You gave me choices after deciding the answer. Conrad extended a hand. Come home. Bring Lily. Testify that Vale forced you to create the copy. I will make the forgery charges disappear. And Malcolm. Malcolm looked at the floor. Conrad smiled. Malcolm understands loyalty. Claire looked at the man who had found her hungry and called it opportunity. No, he understands price. The lights returned. Music resumed faintly in the ballroom. Conrad glanced toward the original painting on the table. Which canvas did you bring? Malcolm stepped forward. Noah moved, but a guard raised his gun. Malcolm examined the replacement canvas inside the case. He leaned close to the surface. Claire watched him search for the habits he had taught himself to recognize. He pointed. That one is hers. Conrad nodded toward a guard. Hang it. Claire said nothing. Malcolm had chosen the first copy. The one Dominic believed was the only copy. The guard carried it toward the wall. Teresa waited beyond the service passage with the second. Claire looked at Dominic. He did not know. Conrad approached her. You always believed intelligence made you free. Claire held the packet against her side. It helps. You are still standing inside my house. For the last time. She moved toward the door. Conrad grabbed her arm. Claire pulled back. Let go. His fingers tightened. Do not embarrass me in front of my guests. The sentence belonged to her childhood. Claire looked into his face. No. Conrad struck her. The blow turned her head. The gallery doors opened at the same moment. Guests stood beyond them. Reporters, donors, museum trustees. The quartet had stopped playing. Claire tasted blood. Dominic drew his gun. Every guard moved. Noah raised his weapon. Screams broke through the ballroom. Dominic aimed at Conrad's chest. Conrad released Claire. He looked almost relieved. Yes, he said. Do it. Dominic's finger tightened against the trigger. Conrad smiled. Kill me in front of 200 witnesses. Turn Elena into the mother of a murderer. Turn Claire into the mistress of one. Dominic's face held nothing human. Claire had seen men become violent. She had never seen violence become still. He stepped closer. Conrad lifted his chin. Claire looked at the gun, then at Dominic. Dominic. He did not move. She touched his arm. Look at me. His eyes remained on Conrad. Claire pressed her hand more firmly against his sleeve. Choose the living. The words entered him slowly. His gaze shifted. He saw the blood at the corner of her mouth. The fear she had not hidden. The choice she was asking him to make. Dominic lowered the gun. Conrad laughed. You came for your mother's painting, and you will leave with nothing. Dominic looked toward the canvas being returned to the wall, then at the evidence in Claire's hands. Finally, at Claire. Keep the painting. The room became silent. Conrad's smile faded. Dominic turned to Noah. Send everything. Noah pressed a control on his phone. Copies of Elena's records moved to federal investigators, 3 newspapers, and 2 attorneys outside Vale influence. Malcolm stepped backward. Conrad looked at him. What have you done? Malcolm ran. He reached the service corridor before 2 federal agents entered from the kitchen side. Teresa had opened the door for them. They forced Malcolm to the floor. Conrad stared at Claire. You think documents can destroy me? No. She wiped the blood from her mouth. People can. Sirens rose beyond the gates. Reporters began shouting questions. Guests moved away from Conrad as though guilt could spread by touch. Federal agents entered the gallery. Conrad's lawyers appeared within minutes, but the cameras were already recording. No one could place the moment back inside a private room. An agent took the packet from Claire. Another asked Conrad to step away from the painting. He refused. 3 men removed him from his own gallery. As he passed Claire, his voice remained calm. You will regret choosing him. Claire looked at Dominic. No, she faced her father. I chose myself. Outside police vehicles filled the drive. Dominic led Claire through the side entrance, but he did not touch her. Noah followed with Elena's letter sealed inside an evidence bag. The museum transport van had disappeared. Dominic looked toward the empty space near the kitchen gate. Where is Teresa taking Lily somewhere safe? Claire said. That answer was true. It was not complete. Inside Teresa's vehicle, beneath a blanket and 2 boxes of catering supplies, rested the original A-door in winter. The painting hanging inside Conrad's West Gallery was Claire's second copy. The first copy sat inside the museum case federal agents had recovered. Conrad possessed neither the original nor the truth. Dominic believed the original remained behind. Claire needed him to believe it. She needed to know what he would choose when no reward waited for him. He had chosen her. That did not mean she was ready to stay. Greyhaven was quiet when they returned. Lily ran across the foyer in her pajamas. Claire dropped to her knees and held her. Lily touched the swelling on Claire's face. Did you fall? Claire looked over her shoulder. Dominic stood near the door. No, she said. Someone hurt me. Lily's eyes filled. Is he coming here? No. Claire held her face between both hands. He cannot decide where we live anymore. Lily looked toward Dominic. Can Mr. Dominic? The question entered the foyer like a blade. Dominic answered before Claire could. No. Lily looked back at her mother. Claire kissed her forehead. Go with Teresa. I need to talk to him. Teresa took Lily upstairs. Claire remained near the staircase. Dominic removed the pistol from beneath his jacket and placed it on a table. He looked tired. Not physically, as if something he had carried for years had finally become too heavy. The money is yours, he said. I know. The guards will be removed before morning. Claire said nothing. A car is ready. Noah will take you anywhere. You are letting me leave. His expression tightened. I should never have made you ask. Claire waited. Dominic looked toward the dark corridor leading to the studio. I brought you here by force. I used your history before I earned the right to hear it. I treated your fear like information and your talent like a weapon. Claire felt something inside her shift. Not forgiveness. Recognition. He finally understood the shape of what he had done. I am sorry, he said. The words held no demand, no bargain, no expectation. Claire looked at him. Do you want me to stay? Yes. Do you expect me to know? Those were different answers. At sunrise, Claire packed Lily's clothes. She took the sketchbook, the plastic star, and the account information proving the money belonged to her. Dominic waited outside the front entrance. The ocean moved gray beneath the morning sky. Lily hugged Teresa, then Evelyn. She stood in front of Dominic. Are you coming? He crouched several feet away. No. Why? Dominic looked at Claire. Because your mother gets to decide where she goes. Lily considered that. Then she placed the purple horse drawing in his hand. So you do not forget us. Dominic looked at the six-legged animal. I will not. Claire carried the bag to the car. Before entering, she turned toward Greyhaven. Dominic remained on the steps. He did not follow. He did not order the driver to wait. He did not ask Claire to promise she would return. The gates opened. Claire sat beside Lily in the back seat. As the car moved down the long drive, Greyhaven disappeared behind the winter trees. Claire placed one hand inside her coat pocket. The key to Teresa's storage room rested against her fingers. The real painting was safe. For the first time since Dominic Vale entered her apartment, every road ahead belonged to Claire. The first morning in Gloucester, Claire woke before Lily and did not know where she was. The room was quiet. No guards moved beyond the door. No cameras watched the driveway. No footsteps waited in the hall. Only the ocean. Its sound entered through an open window, steady and distant, like someone breathing in another room. Claire sat up slowly. The small house was nothing like Greyhaven. The floors creaked. The kitchen cabinets did not match. One window refused to close completely, and the bathroom light flickered when the washing machine ran. It was perfect. Not because it was beautiful. Because the lease carried Claire Bennett's name. The rent had been paid from her account. The keys belonged to her. Lily slept beside her with one hand beneath her cheek. Her stuffed rabbit rested near the pillow. Both pink shoes stood together near the bedroom door. Claire watched them for a long time. Then she crossed the room and opened the door wider. No one stopped her. 3 days later, Conrad Whitmore appeared on every major news station in Boston. Claire turned off the television before Lily entered the room. She did not need to watch the footage again. She had already seen her father escorted from Whitmore House while reporters shouted about Elena Vale illegal payments, forged records, and the death of a woman powerful men had once called unstable. Federal investigators searched 3 Whitmore Foundation offices. 2 museum trustees resigned. A former mechanic came forward after seeing Elena's statement. He admitted that Conrad's security chief had paid him to alter a report connected to Elena's car. Malcolm Pierce was arrested while attempting to leave Massachusetts under another name. His records exposed more than 20 counterfeit sales. Some of the paintings were Claire's. Others belonged to artists Malcolm had found the same way he found her. Talented, unknown, desperate. For the first time, Claire saw the full shape of what he had built. She had never been the only one. That knowledge hurt differently. It made her anger larger than her own life. An attorney contacted her about testifying. Claire agreed under one condition. Her address would remain sealed. The attorney asked whether Dominic Vale had influenced her decision. Claire looked through the kitchen window at Lily collecting shells in the yard. No, she said. That answer felt clean. Weeks passed. Claire bought Lily a new bed. She paid every bill before it arrived. She opened the refrigerator and filled it without calculating what needed to last until Friday. At first, the freedom made her uneasy. She checked the banking account 3 times a day. She waited for a contract clause to appear. She expected someone to call and explain that the money had never truly belonged to her. No one did. Dominic sent no gifts. He did not arrive at the house. He did not place guards across the street. The only message came through an attorney. The original contract was complete. The funds were legally hers. No claim would be made against her work, her name, or any painting she created in the future. Claire read the document twice. At the bottom, Dominic's signature appeared beneath a single handwritten sentence. "The door is open." She folded the paper and placed it inside a drawer. For nearly a month, Claire did not paint. She bought new brushes. She bought linen stretched by hand. She ordered pigments she had once studied only in catalogs. Every morning she stood before a blank canvas. Every morning she walked away. She had spent years painting for Rent Medicine, Malcolm Conrad, and Dominic. Survival had always told her what to create. Freedom remained silent. One afternoon, Lily found her sitting on the studio floor. The room occupied the back of the house and faced the harbor. Light moved across the walls. New paint jars waited unopened on the shelves. Lily sat beside her. "Is the canvas broken?" "No." "Are your hands broken?" Claire looked down at them. "No." "Then why are you not painting?" Claire leaned her head against the wall. "I do not know what belongs there." Lily considered the blank surface. Anything. The answer was so simple, Claire almost laughed. Instead, tears filled her eyes. Lily leaned against her shoulder. "You can paint the purple house." "I thought we decided against purple." "We did not decide. You said tomorrow." Claire closed her eyes. She had. The next day they painted one wall of Lily's bedroom purple. It was too bright. Lily loved it. Claire began seeing a therapist in Salem. During the first session, she sat near the door. During the second, she left her coat on. During the third, she said Conrad's name without lowering her voice. Lily met with a child counselor who used toys and drawings instead of questions. For several weeks, Lily became frightened whenever a black vehicle slowed near the house. She refused to sleep when rain struck the windows. Claire lay beside her through every storm. One night, Lily asked whether bad men could enter through the ocean. Claire held her close. "No." "How do you know?" "Because I chose this house. I know every door." Lily pressed her face against Claire's chest. "Can Mr. Dominic find us?" Claire looked into the dark. "Yes." "Will he come?" "No." "Why?" "Because I did not ask him to." Lily seemed to understand. That was the difference Claire had needed Dominic to understand, too. In early spring, Evelyn visited. She arrived alone in a modest car and carried a box of pastries. Claire opened the door but did not immediately invite her inside. Evelyn waited. The patience mattered. Claire stepped aside. Lily ran from the kitchen and wrapped both arms around Evelyn's waist. "You came. I was summoned by a letter containing 3 purple stars. I drew 4. One may have been lost in the postal system. They spent the afternoon near the harbor." Evelyn spoke little about Dominic until Lily went outside with a bucket. Then she placed her coffee on the table. "He is changing the organization." Claire remained still. "What does that mean?" "He closed 2 operations built on coercion. He removed men who considered fear a business model. He is separating the shipping companies from the family accounts." "That sounds dangerous." "It is." "Why are you telling me?" "Because change that costs nothing is usually theater." Claire looked toward the yard. Lily held a shell to her ear. Evelyn continued. "Dominic has lost money, territory, people he thought were loyal. Did he send you? No. Does he know you are here?" "Yes." "Did he ask you to speak for him?" Evelyn's eyes sharpened. "My grandson has many flaws. Cowardice is not one of them." Claire accepted that. Before leaving, Evelyn handed her a small envelope. Inside was a copy of Elena's letter to Dominic. Claire did not read it. "That belongs to him. He asked that you decide whether to keep it." Claire closed the envelope. "No." Evelyn nodded. She took it back without argument. In May, Claire testified before a federal grand jury. Malcolm accepted a plea agreement. He provided account records, names, and proof that Conrad's foundation had used false art sales to move money through private collections. Conrad denied everything. His lawyers attacked Claire's credibility. They described her as a former forger, an unstable daughter, and a woman manipulated by Dominic Vale. Claire listened from the witness chair. Then she placed her hands flat on the table. She explained how each painting had been commissioned. She described the materials, the payments, the false provenance, the photographs outside Lily's school. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Truth sounded different when spoken without asking permission. By summer, Conrad faced charges for conspiracy, fraud, witness intimidation, and obstruction. The investigation into Elena's death remained open. Claire's mother was found living under another name in Vermont. She had left Conrad years after Claire disappeared. They spoke once by phone. Neither knew how to cross the years between them. Claire did not force it. Some doors opened slowly. Some remained closed until both people were ready. In August, Claire drove to Greyhaven. The original A door in winter rested inside a protected case in the back of her car. Teresa met her at the entrance. She looked at the case, then at Claire. "He does not know." "No." "Good." Claire smiled faintly. "Where is he?" "The studio." Greyhaven looked different in summer. The stone walls remained severe, but the windows stood open. Wind carried the smell of salt through the halls. Claire walked alone to the studio. Dominic stood near the central table reading a document. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled back. For one moment, time folded. Claire saw the man who had stood in her apartment, the man who had locked the gates, the man who had lowered his gun. Dominic looked up. He did not move toward her. "Claire, you look surprised." "I am." "Good." His gaze moved to the case behind her. Claire opened it. A door in winter rested beneath the protective cloth. Dominic stopped breathing. He approached slowly. "You took it. I replaced it. With the copy. With a second copy." He looked at her. "There were two, yes." "Why did you not tell me?" Claire held his eyes. "Because I needed to know what you would choose if you believed the painting was lost." His face changed. "You tested me." "Yes." "That sounds familiar." "It does." Claire felt the truth of the accusation. "I am not proud of it." Dominic looked at the painting. "Did I pass?" "It was not a test." "It was." Claire exhaled. "Yes." He accepted the answer. No anger, no punishment, no attempt to make her regret telling the truth. That mattered more than an apology. Dominic stood before Elena's final work. His mother ran forever across the frozen yard, pulling a child toward a narrow opening. "What should happen to it?" Claire asked. His first answer came quickly. "Burn it!" Claire watched him. He looked at the woman in the painting. Whitmore owned it. "I hunted it. Everyone treated it as proof that she belonged to them. Destroying it would still be your decision." Dominic turned. Claire continued. "It is her voice, not your revenge, not Conrad's trophy." Evelyn entered quietly behind them. She had heard enough. Dominic looked from Claire to his grandmother. "What do you want?" Evelyn stepped closer to the painting. "I want the world to know her name." Months later, a door in winter entered the Museum of Fine Arts under two names: Elena Vale, Mara Voss. The exhibition told the truth about the artist, her hidden work, the men who controlled her career, and the evidence she preserved. Dominic donated the other paintings. He kept none. The exhibition funded legal services for exploited artists and emergency grants for single parents in creative fields. Claire refused to place her name on the foundation. She did agree to advise it, on her terms. She and Dominic began with coffee in public, then dinner, then long walks near the harbor. He never arrived without asking. He knocked even when the door stood open. They argued. Dominic learned not to end disagreements with silence. Claire learned that leaving the room did not always mean disappearing forever. Lily invited him to her school art show. He arrived without guards inside the building and sat in the back row. Her painting showed a purple house beside the ocean. A large black dog stood near the front door. "That is you," Lily told him. Dominic looked at Claire. "I have been compared to worse." A year after Claire left Greyhaven, she opened her first exhibition inside a converted warehouse overlooking Boston Harbor. The name above the entrance read, Claire Bennett. Not Whitmore. Not Vale. Bennett. Her central painting showed a woman and a child standing before an open door. Neither was running. The woman held the child's hand, but she did not pull. Beyond the doorway waited no palace, no man, and no promise of safety. Only sky. Lily named the work The Door She Chose. Dominic attended the exhibition but remained near the edge of the crowd. He did not place himself beside Claire. She found him there. "You are hiding. I was told this evening belongs to the artist." "It does." Claire held out her hand. "So stand beside her." Dominic took it. Later they walked onto the harbor terrace. The city lights moved across the water. Dominic removed a small ring from his pocket. He did not kneel. He held it in his open palm. "Do you choose me?" Claire looked at the ring, then at him. "Today. And tomorrow. Ask me tomorrow." His mouth curved. "That sounds expensive." "It is." He closed his fingers around the ring. "No deadline, no audience, no answer you owe me." Claire stepped closer. "Ask me again when Lily is not watching through the door." Behind the glass, Lily disappeared quickly. Dominic laughed. Claire had heard that sound only a few times. She wanted to hear it again. He leaned toward her, then stopped. Claire closed the distance. Inside the gallery, Evelyn stood with Lily before the door she chose. "What is the woman doing?" Evelyn asked. Lily studied the open doorway. "She is not escaping." "No." Lily shook her head. "She is deciding where to go." Outside, Claire and Dominic walked beside the harbor. He did not lead. She did not follow. They moved at the same pace. Behind them, the gallery door remained open.